You walk into a government ministry, a place where the state does its business, and there, built right into the compound, a mosque, loudspeaker on call to prayer echoing through the hallways. Whose government is this exactly? Captain Ibrahim Traoré, 36 years old, full military uniform. He is running one of the most active war zones on the planet. He made a move that no one saw coming. He banned God from government buildings, and people took to the streets. Before you call this another African strongman playing on the camera, stay with me, because what's actually happening here is far more interesting than any headline is telling you. You see, here is the context most people skip. Burkina Faso, it's by its own constitution since 1991, a laïc state. Secular, religion and government are separate, and that's not Ibrahim Traoré's invention. It has been the law of Burkina Faso for over 30 years. But walk into a ministry in Ouagadougou before this decree, and you'll find mosque built inside the compound. Prayer sessions from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. every day inside government offices. The call to prayer being broadcasted from the Ministry of Education. Now, picture that in practice. Across 4,000 mosques in Bamako, which is Mali's capital just next door. You see, the 1 p.m. prayer runs every single working day. If you multiply that across every government building, every school, every administrative office, that is not a small disruption. That is a structured daily pause built into the machinery of a state that desperately needs to function. And you know there is more. Bamako alone has 4,000 mosques, more than the entire city of Riyadh and more than Mecca itself. You see, it gets even more uncomfortable. Over 80% of mosques in the Sahel are financed from outside Africa, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the Gulf states. Now, let me be clear, most people walking through those doors are ordinary citizens, workers, parents, neighbors. This isn't about them. But some of the imams in those mosques, their ideology is traveling in the same direction as the terror attacking the Burkina Faso state. You see, what we're talking about right now is not speculation. Recently, a Senegalese imam was caught on camera telling his congregation that what the jihadists are doing, bombing markets, unaliving soldiers, was justified for the religion. Now think about the mechanics of that. A man in religious authority speaking to hundreds of people, telling them God approves of the attacks on the state. You see, that's not just preaching, that's a recruitment pipeline operating in plain sight. You see, every time the Burkina Faso army captures a jihadist, Ibrahim Traoré himself has said this directly. They find religious text on them. Every time, the violence and the theology are moving together. Now, there is a part of this story that I'm not really getting from the media since these videos started going viral. The religions dominating this conversation, both of them did not arrive in Africa gently. The Sokoto Jihad of the early 1800s dismantled existing African kingdoms by force, replacing them with Islamic governance in what is now called Nigeria, Niger, and the wider Sahel. Also, Christianity came with missionaries who told Africans that their gods were demons. Children were beaten in mission schools for speaking their own languages. Chiefs stripped of power for refusing conversion, ancestral veneration, earth spirituality. And these were communal rituals that held communities for thousands of years. They were suddenly declared as witchcraft and systematically destroyed. You see, before either of these religions arrived, Africa had its own. So when someone says, "You can't tell us where to pray," I hear that genuinely. But the question worth sitting with is, was this faith handed to your grandparents as a gift or as a condition of survival? You see, Burkina Faso is not a Muslim country. It's not a Christian country. By constitution, 61% Muslim, 19% Christian, 20% traditional and other. It belongs equally to all of them. And Traoré's position is simple: build your mosque wherever you want, but out of government buildings. Because the moment a mosque gets a room inside the Ministry of Education, the Christians want a chapel too. The Buddhists want a space. The traditional practitioners may say it's noon. We want to pour a libation for our ancestors in the courtyard. And someone could also say we want to slaughter a chicken for the gods right here in the office. You see, you laugh, but that's not a joke. That's the actual logic of a laïc or secular state. You can't say yes to one and no to everyone else. Burkina Faso belongs to all Burkinabés. Now, this is another part in the story that nobody's talking about. An Imam named Mohammed Ishakindu publicly protested Traoré's decree. He was arrested. You see, in a context where Burkina Faso is fighting an active insurgency with real casualties, where some imams have openly validated attacks on the state, uncomfortable decisions are being made, and that's the simple reality of governing in a war zone. But here is the contrast that should make you hold on. Saudi Arabia, the country financing over 80% of those mosques, the model that many of these imams openly cite. Saudi Arabia also arrests people who challenge laws. A Nigerian imam questioned a Saudi government policy, arrested. And then there is this, the Imam of Kaaba, Sheikh Saleh Al-Ghamdi. He is not a minor figure, a man who led prayers at the holiest site in all of Islam, the highest ranking imam in the whole Muslim world. In 2018, the Saudi government gave him 10 years in prison, and that was not for terrorism, it was not for incitement. It was for criticizing Saudi Arabia's entertainment activities. 10 years for an opinion. No matches took place after that. There was no international condemnation. Just silence. But when an African president enforces a secular law that has been in his own constitution for 30 years, suddenly it's a crisis. Now, Paul Kagame in Rwanda closed thousands of churches, and that was the state asserting itself over religious infrastructure. France separated church from state in 1905. The United States in 1791. Burkina Faso wrote it in its constitution in 1991. So Ibrahim Traoré is not inventing anything radical. He is simply enforcing what was already there. Now, the richest pastors on earth, most of them are African, on the continent with some of the highest rates of poverty, foreign money building religious influence, radical ideology wrapped inside theological language, and a government that needs to function in the middle of a war, finding God in its own hallways every afternoon. Now, there is one thing that genuinely warrants scrutiny. There was an imam that publicly supported Ibrahim Traoré's policy on this. One morning, he was nowhere to be found. He disappeared. You can agree with the policy and still demand the state account for every person in its custody. Now, those aren't contradictory positions. That matters and it should be watched. But you know there is a broader truth. Every country that built a functioning state eventually answered this question: does the government serve the people or does it serve the faith? The West answered it. We just talked about how France separated this in 1901. We talked about how the US banned that. Africa is answering it now. And the loudest voices against it are often backed by the same foreign interests that answered it for themselves long ago and seem in no rush for Africa to do the same. You see, there is an African proverb: the stranger who comes in peace is a guest. The stranger who takes over the house is something else entirely. You see, Africa is the most religiously plural continent on earth. Muslims, Christians, animists, traditionalists, all living in the same streets and sometimes in the same family. You see, faith is real here and it is woven into who we really are. But a government that belongs to everyone cannot be held hostage by whoever has the loudest speaker and the deepest foreign pockets. In your country right now, who actually controls the public square? The constitution or the sermon? Think about that. Talk to someone about it and feel free to push back in the comments if you think I'm wrong. I read those. You see, when the state is weak, every vacuum gets filled. The only question is, what fills it? Make sure it's something that belongs to all of you. I'm Asongwed Luis. You're watching Africa Today and this is the Strategic Lens. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.